The year is 1324. A caravan stretches across the burning sands of the Sahara Desert. Thousands of men walk slowly across the endless dunes. Camels carry silk, spices, and something far more valuable than anything the desert has ever seen: gold. So much gold that when the caravan reaches Egypt, the price of gold will crash for years. At the center of this incredible procession is one man, the ruler of the richest empire on earth. His name is Mansa Musa. But the story of this journey is only the middle of a much bigger story. Because 2 centuries before this moment, this empire did not exist. Before the wealth, before the cities, before the legendary kings, there was only chaos. And from that chaos would rise one of the greatest empires Africa had ever seen: the Mali Empire. Long before Mali rose to power, another empire dominated West Africa: the Ghana Empire. For centuries, Ghana controlled the most valuable trade in the world: gold. Gold from West Africa traveled across the desert to North Africa and the Middle East. Caravans of camels carried salt, cloth, books, and luxury goods in exchange. This trade made Ghana incredibly wealthy. But every empire eventually weakens. By the 11th century, Ghana began to collapse. Several things caused this. Internal conflicts weakened the kingdom. Trade routes began shifting, and invading forces attacked the empire. Over time, the once powerful Ghana Empire broke apart. Small kingdoms and tribes fought for power. West Africa entered a time of uncertainty. But history was preparing a new leader, a man whose name would echo through centuries. The future founder of the Mali Empire was born into a royal family. His name was Sundiata Keita. But his early life did not look like the story of a great king. As a child, Sundiata could not walk. His legs were weak. Many people believed he would never become a warrior. In a society that valued strength and courage, this was seen as a terrible weakness. Other princes mocked him. Some even believed he should never rule. But Sundiata's mother believed something different. She believed her son had a destiny. According to legend, one day Sundiata stood up and walked for the first time. Not only did he walk, he lifted a heavy iron rod and bent it with his hands. From that day forward, people began to see him differently. The boy who could not walk was becoming something far greater, a leader. During this time, a powerful king named Sumaro Kenti ruled the Sozo kingdom. He was feared across the region. Many kingdoms were forced to submit to his power. But Sundiata refused to accept this rule. He began gathering allies. Small kingdoms that were tired of Sozo domination joined him. Warriors came from many regions. Farmers, hunters, and soldiers united under one banner. Sundiata promised them something powerful: freedom. The conflict that followed would become legendary. Around the year 1235, 2 armies met on the battlefield. The location was known as the Battle of Kirin. On one side stood Sumaro Kenti and his powerful forces. On the other stood Sundiata and his growing alliance. The battle was fierce. Warriors clashed with spears and swords. Dust filled the air as thousands fought for control of the region. In the end, Sundiata's forces won. Sumoro's power collapsed. And with that victory, Sundiata became the ruler of a new empire. The Mali Empire was born. Sundiata did not only win battles, he built systems that would hold the empire together. He organized trade routes. He created alliances between different tribes. He allowed local leaders to govern their regions while remaining loyal to the empire. Most importantly, Mali gained control of the most valuable resource in the medieval world. Gold. West Africa contains some of the richest gold mines on earth. And now the Mali Empire controlled many of them. Caravans began traveling across the Sahara again. Trade returned. Cities grew. Wealth flowed into the empire. But the greatest ruler of Mali had not yet appeared. That ruler would turn Mali into the richest empire in the world. 2 generations after Sundiata founded the empire, a new king would rise, a king whose wealth would shock the entire world, a king whose journey across the desert would become legendary. His name was Mansa Musa, and his reign would transform Mali into the most famous empire of the medieval world. But this incredible wealth would also plant the seeds of a future decline. After the death of Sundiata Keita, the Mali Empire continued to grow. His successors protected the trade routes that crossed the caravans traveled between West Africa and North Africa, carrying valuable goods, salt from the desert, cloth from the Mediterranean, books and ideas from the Islamic world. But the most valuable product of all was gold. West Africa was one of the richest gold regions on earth, and the Mali Empire controlled many of those mines. Because of this, Mali became the center of a powerful trade network. Merchants from distant lands traveled thousands of kilometers to reach its markets. Slowly, the empire expanded across a vast territory, from the forests in the south to the deserts in the north. But one leader would transform this powerful empire into a legendary one. Around the year 1312, a new ruler came to power. His name was Mansa Musa. The title Mansa meant king or emperor, and Musa would prove to be one of the most powerful rulers in African history. He inherited an empire already rich in gold and trade. But Musa was not satisfied with simply ruling a wealthy kingdom. He wanted to strengthen the empire. He improved administration. He organized taxes on trade routes. He strengthened control over important cities. Under his leadership, the Mali Empire expanded further than ever before. New territories joined the empire. New trade routes were secured, and Mali's reputation began to spread beyond Africa. But the event that would make Mansa Musa famous across the world had not yet happened. In the year 1324, Mansa Musa decided to perform a sacred journey, a pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca. This journey was known as the Mansa Musa's pilgrimage to Mecca. But Musa did not travel alone. His caravan was enormous. Thousands of soldiers walked beside him. Thousands of servants traveled with the royal court. Dozens of camels carried supplies across the desert, and every camel carried heavy bags of gold. Some historians believe the caravan included more than 60,000 people. When the caravan passed through cities along the way, people watched in disbelief. They had never seen such wealth. When Musa arrived in Egypt, the markets were filled with excitement. He gave gold to the poor. He gave gold to merchants. He gave gold to rulers and officials. The amount of gold he distributed was so great that it affected the entire economy. In fact, historians believe that the sudden flood of gold caused the value of gold to fall in Egypt for many years. Word of this incredible journey spread across the world, from North Africa to Europe to the Middle East. For the first time, many people outside Africa began hearing about the Mali Empire, and they realized something extraordinary. One of the richest empires on earth was located in West Africa. After returning from his pilgrimage, Mansa Musa began transforming the empire. He invited scholars, architects, and teachers from across the Islamic world. One city in particular became the center of this intellectual movement, the legendary city of Timbuktu. Timbuktu became famous for its universities. Students traveled from many lands to study there. They studied mathematics, astronomy, law, medicine, religion. Libraries filled with thousands of manuscripts were created. Knowledge flowed through the city like a river. Timbuktu became one of the most important centers of learning in the medieval world. And this intellectual power strengthened the reputation of the Mali Empire even further. By the middle of the 14th century, Mali had reached its greatest height. Its territory stretched across a vast portion of West Africa. Its trade routes connected distant civilizations. Its cities were filled with merchants and scholars. Gold from Mali flowed into markets across the Mediterranean. Some historians believe that during this time, Mansa Musa may have been the richest person in human history. But history has a strange pattern. When empires reach their highest point, they often begin moving toward decline, because the death of a great ruler can leave a dangerous vacuum. And after Mansa Musa's death, the first signs of weakness began to appear. When Mansa Musa died in the 1330s, he left behind an empire that was powerful, wealthy, and respected. But ruling such a vast empire required strong leadership. Without it, rivalries could grow. Provinces could rebel, trade routes could fall into enemy hands, and soon the first cracks in the Golden Empire would begin to appear. After the death of Mansa Musa, the throne passed to his son. This moment was devastating for Mali. His name was Mansa Magan I. But ruling an empire the size of Mali required more than inheritance. It required wisdom, strong leadership, and the ability to maintain control over distant provinces. Unfortunately, Magan struggled with these responsibilities. Sources from the time suggest that he was not as strong a ruler as his father. Administration weakened. Powerful regional leaders began acting more independently. The central authority of the Mali Empire slowly began to fade. Later rulers would attempt to stabilize the empire, but instability had already begun spreading. At its height, the Mali Empire stretched across an enormous region of West Africa. Its lands included forests, rivers, deserts, and trading cities. Controlling such a vast territory required constant communication and military strength. But in the medieval world, communication was slow. Messages traveled on horseback or camel. It could take weeks or months for orders from the emperor to reach distant provinces. This created a dangerous situation. Local governors began gaining more independence. Some stopped sending taxes to the capital. Others built their own armies. The unity that once held the empire together was slowly weakening. Trade was the lifeblood of the Mali Empire. Gold from West Africa traveled north across the Sahara. Salt from the desert traveled south. Merchants carried goods, ideas, and knowledge across continents. Cities like Timbuktu and Gao thrived because they sat along these important trade routes. But as the empire weakened, maintaining control of these routes became harder. Bandits attacked caravans. Local rulers demanded their own taxes. Some traders began avoiding certain regions altogether. Gradually, Mali's control over trade began to slip. And when trade weakens, wealth begins to disappear. While the Mali Empire struggled to maintain control, a powerful city in the east was growing stronger. That city was Gao. Gao had once been part of Mali's territory, but as Mali weakened, the leaders of Gao began asserting their independence. This region would soon become the heart of a rising empire, the Songhai Empire. Songhai had long been a trading civilization along the Niger River, but now it was transforming into a military power. Its leaders watched carefully as Mali's authority weakened, and they began preparing to expand. As years passed, more provinces began slipping away from the Mali Empire. Former allies declared independence. Regional leaders refused to follow orders from the emperor. Some territories that had once been loyal simply stopped recognizing Mali's authority. This slow fragmentation weakened the empire further. Every lost province meant fewer soldiers, less gold, less trade. The once powerful empire was slowly shrinking. But the greatest threat had not yet arrived. In the east, a new leader was rising, a warrior king who would transform the Songhai Empire into a powerful military force. His name was Sunni Ali. He was ambitious, strategic, and determined to control the trade routes of West Africa. The cities that once made Mali rich would soon become his targets. For more than a century, the Mali Empire had dominated West Africa. It had been the empire of gold, the empire of scholars, the empire of Mansa Musa. But now the balance of power was shifting. A new empire was rising. In the mid-1400s, the Songhai Empire was still a growing kingdom centered around the city of Gaul. But everything changed when Ali became ruler in 1464. Sunni Ali was not only a king, he was a military genius. He understood something very important: control the Niger River, control the trade, and if he controlled the trade routes, he would control the wealth of West Africa. Sunni Ali began building a powerful army. But he also did something unusual. He built a navy. Hundreds of war canoes patrolled the Niger River. These river forces allowed Songhai to move troops quickly and control key cities along the river. It was a strategy that Mali had never developed, and it would give Songhai a powerful advantage. One of the most important cities in the region was Timbuktu. For centuries, it had been a center of trade and learning. Caravans from across the Sahara Desert brought goods into its markets. Scholars gathered in its universities. Libraries held thousands of manuscripts. But by the 1400s, the Mali Empire no longer had the strength to protect it. In 1468, Sunni Ali launched his attack. His forces moved quickly across the region. Mali's weakened defenses could not stop them, and soon the legendary city of Timbuktu fell into Songhai's hands. Because Timbuktu was more than just a city. It was a symbol of Mali's power and cultural influence. Losing it meant losing one of the empire's greatest treasures. After capturing Timbuktu, Sunni Ali turned his attention to another important target. The trading city of Gen. Gen was one of the most important commercial centers in West Africa. Merchants from many lands met there to exchange goods. Control Janae, and you controlled a huge portion of the region's economy. Sundiata besieged the city for months. Eventually, Jen surrendered, with both Timbuktu and Jen under Songhai control. The balance of power had shifted dramatically. The Songhai Empire now controlled the most important trade centers along the Niger River, and the once powerful Mali Empire was pushed further into the background. After losing its most valuable cities, the Mali Empire began shrinking rapidly. Territories that had once paid tribute stopped recognizing its authority. Former allies turned into independent kingdoms. Gold trade began flowing through Songhai-controlled routes instead. Without trade, Mali lost wealth. Without wealth, it could not maintain a strong army. And without a strong army, it could not defend its territory. Slowly, the once vast empire was reduced to a much smaller kingdom. The empire Sundiata Keita and Mansa Musa was fading from power. While Mali declined, the Songhai Empire continued expanding. After the death of Sundiata, another great ruler strengthened the empire even further. His name was Askia Muhammad I. Under his leadership, Songhai became the largest empire in West African history. Its administration became more organized. Trade flourished. Scholarship continued in Timbuktu. The center of power had completely shifted. Mali was no longer the dominant empire. Songhai now ruled the region. Even though the Mali Empire lost its power, its legacy never disappeared. It had transformed West Africa. It had connected Africa to global trade networks. It had built cities filled with knowledge and culture. And its greatest ruler, Mansa Musa, remained one of the most legendary figures in world history. The story of Mali reminds us of something powerful. Every empire rises, every empire reaches greatness, and every empire eventually falls. But the ideas, culture, and achievements they leave behind continue shaping the world long after their power fades. The empire of gold may have fallen, but its story still shines across history.